Minecraft has 14 different types of villager jobs, and with unique trades and features around each, learn everything about villager professions in this guide. Also, very few of my viewers are subscribed, so if you're enjoying this content, feel free to subscribe and turn notifications on to never miss my Minecraft guides, tutorials, and facts. So before we jump right into every single villager profession, first some very vital information you need to know about trading in general. Of course, trading is when you right-click on a villager and you see some things for sale. The items on the left are what you give the villager, and the items on the right are what they give to you. So for instance here, 20 wheat for an emerald. Now if you do not like the trades that a certain villager is offering, and you have not traded with them yet, so let's say we even just traded one time with this villager, its trades are locked in forever. But if we haven't, we can break its workstation, it'll lose its job, but then we can place it back there, and generally it'll take its job up again in a minute. Sometimes they don't, but then a different villager will, as it's an unclaimed job site, and we can now get some different trades from that. Now of course you're not going to have radically different trades, as there's a set list of trades that every single villager can give you, but this is very useful in the case of certain things like a mending book, where you can break and replace a lectern until the trade that you get is a mending book instead of something like Bane of Arthropods 2 that you would never really find a use for. Now if we do a whole bunch of trading with a villager, then it'll gain experience as well as us, and that experience will make it level up and unlock more trades. Also, as now we've leveled up this villager a lot and it's very important to us, something you may want to do if it, let's say, by accidentally gets hurt, well, if you trade with a villager, that will actually heal the villager. So for instance, if we buy some of these now very inflated prices from the villager, if let's say more realistically it was hurt by a zombie or maybe a husk, well that will heal the villager, as some of its health regenerates when you trade with it. And so if you ever have a villager that's about to die because it's getting very hurt, or just a very damaged villager, you can always save that by trading with it. Now something I'm sure you've noticed before when trading with villagers is that eventually they'll run out of stock in an item. You can see there's an X over that arrow, indicating that that villager no longer has any of those items in stock. And for that villager to gain more of the items, it has to go back to its workstation and restock its trade. And so the villager will occasionally go back to its workstation, interact with it, and sometimes that'll restock the trade, restocking about 2 to 3 times a day depending on when you last traded with it. I found it can be even sometimes only 1 restock, but generally it'll end up being about 2 to 3 if you're trading with them a whole lot. Also an interesting thing is if you're holding emeralds out, villagers will advertise some of their wares to you in their hands. So for instance, this fisherman holding out a campfire, or some of the other villagers showing things that they sell as well. And if you do not buy a variety of different trades from a villager, but instead focus on maybe 1 or 2 trades, just selling tons and tons of that item to the farmer, or whatever other type of villager you're dealing with, it'll eventually try and scam you by raising the prices on that specific item. However, if you wait a bit, those prices will eventually go down again. What's your favorite trade with the villagers? Make sure to leave a comment down below telling me what the trade is and why, as I'd love to hear which types of villager trades people are most interested in. Anyway, on to the workstations that these villagers use to make them be employed. We're going to start off with the fisherman. Now the fisherman's job site block is a barrel. The barrel is crafted with 2 slabs and 6 sticks like this if you're in Bedrock edition. For Java, simply replace those sticks for these planks. Upon placing that down in villager interaction, we get the Fisherman Villager. Now this villager actually has some pretty good trades. For instance, coal for emeralds. Also, you can get iron buckets through buying buckets of fish. You can also unlock fish trades where you sell fish to the fisherman for emeralds, and you can even buy enchanted fishing rods from the fisherman, which of course, depending on the enchantments, which are basically completely random what you get, can be very good or very bad. And as well as other fish trades that can be made available, there is a really amazing trade from the fisherman, which is boat for an emerald. And something really nice about that, even though it's not very quick to trade, is of course it's one of the only trades in the game where you're just straight up trading wood items for emeralds. Now the next workstation is the blast furnace, crafted with a standard furnace, 3 smooth stone on the bottom, and 5 iron ingots on top. And this job site block will give us an Armorer Villager. Not only can you unlock iron for emerald trades, you can also trade a singular lava bucket for an emerald, and then you can even trade for chainmail armor, and eventually upon upgrading this you get to the true overpowered trades, which is literal enchanted diamond armor that you can buy from the villager. Now of course just the fact that you can buy diamond armor from villagers is pretty crazy, but upon buying these 2 pieces you even unlock the helmet as well as the chest plate, which means that especially considering disenchanting, where you could disenchant these and get a better enchantment on here, the ability to get full diamond armor that even has enchantments on it, just from some emeralds, which again all of these could technically eventually be 1 emerald for each of these, and a similar villager which also gives you equally overpowered trades, is made by creating the job site block that you also merge diamond and netherite with, and that is the smithing table. Now the smithing table, as you just saw, is crafted with 4 planks and 2 iron ingots, and that's the toolsmith. Now of course initially trades like emeralds for stone axes, stone hoes, just basically useless items. We've now gone from stone to enchanted iron, which of course isn't amazing, but it's pretty good. And then after the enchanted iron, we then upgrade to the most overpowered best trade in the entire game. It's actually turning a diamond into an emerald. No, just kidding, this is actually one of the worst trades in the entire game. Never do that trade, but this is a very good trade, so you can get yourself diamond tools. There's a limit of only 3 per restock, so you could not easily get yourself thousands and thousands of these, although it is certainly possible with a large array of villagers. Now you notice this one's only trading us shovels and pickaxes. However, it's totally possible to get diamond axes as well as diamond hoes from the toolsmith. We have to craft the job site block of the grindstone, which is made with a stone slab, 2 sticks, and 2 oak planks, or really whatever type of plank you want. Now this gives us the weaponsmith. Then you get trades like iron for emeralds, and of course you would never want to buy it at this price really, but this is basically the only good way of getting the bell in the entire game. You can also unlock a trade of flint for an emerald. Next we unlock one of these great trades, and that is emeralds for a diamond axe. Now this diamond axe can have PvP based enchantments on it, or it cannot. You can notice here this one just has efficiency 2, which has very little to do with PvP, and we also unlock the terrible diamond for emerald trade. But finally, after much suffering through low quality trades, we finally get a sword, a diamond sword that's enchanted even, for emeralds, and this is really one of the best trades in the entire game, and so because of these villagers you can get basically any single diamond based item you want in the entire game just from a bunch of emeralds. For the next workstation we're going to make a loom with 2 pieces of string and 2 planks like this, the workstation of a villager that isn't the most useful, but definitely still has some uses to having it, and that villager is the shepherd. Now it starts off with emeralds for shears, which is actually a really good trade if you're making, let's say, a massive automatic wool farm and need hundreds and hundreds of shears. Now this is dye for emeralds. This can actually be really good depending on the type of dye, as of course when lowering this price down to 1 for 1, then you could really get a lot of that. However, we do have some interesting trades like an emerald for carpets, but something that is a little bit more useful is emeralds for beds. Near the end you can also unlock some banner trades. If you're interested in making a whole bunch of banners, then the Shepherd Villager is definitely your go-to, but they do have a somewhat humorous final trade, which is 2 emeralds for 3 paintings. Considering the fact that a painting is literally 1 wool block with 8 sticks, this is probably one of the worst last level trades that any villager gives you. Now with 3 stone and 1 iron ingot you can craft the stone cutter, but it's also the workstation for the mason villager. Now I would personally say the mason is probably one of the best villagers in the entire game. So for instance, one of its first trades is always 10 clay balls for 1 emerald, so that means that you're only having to break 2.5 clay blocks to get an emerald, and also the next trade is even better, which is 1 emerald for 10 bricks. And now we unlock probably the most overpowered trade in all of Minecraft outside of maybe the enchanted book trade, which is stone for emeralds. Now it is 20 stone, but the fact is it's not very hard to turn 20 stone into 1 stone with some zombifications, which by the way I'll be covering in an upcoming video as how to zombify villagers. And so because of this, It is really simple to have one stone turn into one emerald. Also, we unlock some interesting trades where we get building blocks from the villagers for emeralds, and this is actually one of the only really easy ways of getting renewable terracotta. And finally, we unlock its final trades, which are quartz pillars and quartz blocks for emeralds. Crafted with 3 cobblestone and a blaze rod, you can make the brewing stand, but it is also the workstation for the Cleric Villager, so its first trade is the rotten flesh for emerald trade. It also has a trade of 1 emerald for 2 redstone dust. Also, you unlock emerald for lapis lazuli. This is the only renewable way of getting lapis lazuli in the game. If you've built yourself a large gold farm, then the Cleric is perfect for your emerald farming, and after doing that there's even trades like 1 rabbit's foot for an emerald, which are not a very good deal, but this is a great one, which is glowstone for emeralds, scoot for emeralds, which is also not a good deal, and as well as that we have glass bottles for emeralds, with a final very overpowered trade of bottles of enchanting for emeralds. Even though the bottles of enchanting do not give you very much experience, what's really great about them is that they're fully portable, incredibly easy XP, and this is the only real way of getting them is from the Cleric Villagers. And so I would suggest one of these if you're late game to get yourself an emergency elytra refill on durability, just throwing those up in the air and letting your tools and items repair. For the next villager workstation combo, we have the smoker. Now the smoker is made with 4 logs of any type, even mixed like this, around a furnace. This turns a villager into a butcher. Now a butcher has trades such as raw meat for an emerald. But one thing that's really great is when it levels up, is you can get meat items from the butcher. So for instance, right here we have cooked chicken from emeralds, but now we can also sell them things like raw beef and raw mutton. There's also the trade of 10 dried kelp blocks for an emerald, which I think is a terrible deal, but still an interesting trade, and this villager also, because it has to do with a smelting block, will give you an emerald for coal. Their best trade definitely is the sweet berries for an emerald. Imagine this as only 1 sweet berry for 1 emerald, and a massively overpowered large fox-powered berry farm. For instance, I have a micro farm design on those and they're very simple. Then you could get yourself a really easy source of infinite emeralds if you had maybe 10 to 20 of the butcher villagers next to an insanely overpowered farm. This could be your main source of the emerald. Now for the only workstation which has no use outside of being a workstation, and that is the fletching table, made with 4 planks and 2 pieces of flint. This turns a villager, if it takes the job, into a fletcher. Now there are some pretty good trades on this. For instance, 1 emerald for 16 arrows straight off the bat. There's also trades like only 2 emeralds for a bow. And if you did want to sell flint for emeralds, it'll also buy 26 flint for 1 emerald. If you give it an emerald and 10 gravel, it'll actually turn those into flint itself in exchange for that emerald. We even have string for emeralds, as well as crossbows for emeralds, finally ending off with feathers for emeralds, and you can even buy an enchanted bow from the Fletcher, with their final trade being incredibly overpowered, which is turning arrows into tipped arrows for you. Being able to get tipped arrows without the need of going to the end to get Dragon's Breath is super overpowered, although you may be going through a very large amount of Fletchers to get an arrow of every single type, but still may be a great late game idea, as a lot of the tipped arrows give you really overpowered effects. Crafted with 4 slabs and 1 bookshelf, we can make the lectern, giving us the Librarian Villager. I got a Silk Touch book for only 12 emeralds, which obviously is great considering the fact that that's a guaranteed enchanted book for a relatively cheap price. Also, their paper trade is good if you have a very large automatic or manual sugarcane farm, and they can also unlock more overpowered enchanted books later on, and they even have a trade of giving you an emerald for books. Now, something interesting is that sometimes librarians will sell you bookshelves, and if you can get their trades all the way down to 1, you can actually trade with the same villager to get infinite emeralds. So basically that would be, you trade 1 emerald for a bookshelf, you break the bookshelf to get 3 books, and each one of those books is going to give you an emerald, so you've effectively duplicated 1 emerald into 3 emeralds. You can also trade ink sacks for emeralds, and you could buy a clock if you want for 5 emeralds, and as the final trade, which is also also incredibly overpowered. For 20 emeralds, you can get a name tag. Now this is the best way of getting name tags in the game by far, and of course with zombifications, only 1 emerald for a name tag is absolutely insane, and it's always good to remember you can just break and replace this table when you're first trying to turn a villager into a librarian, until you get your preferred first enchanted book. Now the next workstation is a composter made out of 7 slabs of any wood type, and this workstation will turn a villager into a farmer villager, which is a really great way early game of getting good trades. 4 apples for 1 emerald is very overpowered. There's also the famous pumpkin and melon trades, and what makes these trades so famous is the fact that with only 1 villager zombification, you can literally get this down to 1 pumpkin for an emerald or 1 melon for an emerald, making it your ideal first major source of emeralds in the game. And you can also unlock suspicious stew trades, giving you a vast variety of effects, and you can even unlock a golden carrot trade. You can also get glistering melons, and although this farmer did not get it, there's even a cake trade where you can get cakes for emeralds, which I sort of have mixed feelings about because I do like the idea of buying cakes, but also because the recipe is so difficult, it's sort of cool to make cakes a hard item to get instead of just having an infinite number of them with villager trading. If you want a Leatherworker Villager, take 7 iron ingots and craft a cauldron. Upon gaining the job, we get access to trades like 6 leather for an emerald. Also, if you like the color of the leather clothes that the villager sells you, which by the way are a completely random chance of literally any single color that exists of the RGB, then you can buy those from the villager. You can also gain access to other leather trades, as well as rabbit hides for an emerald. For now, that's basically the only specific use for them in the entire game. I'm not exactly sure what this has to do with leather, but you can trade scoot for emeralds, and also you can get leather horse armor for emeralds from the Leatherworker, and as one of its final overpowered trades, we have saddles for an emerald. Now this, outside of Ravagers, is the only renewable way of getting saddles in the entire game. If you want a Cartographer Villager, then make a cartography table with 4 oak planks and 2 pieces of paper. It gives you the Cartographer. This villager, like the Librarian, starts out with a paper for emerald trade. You can also buy maps from this villager, so if you're making a mega map, that is absolutely vital, as of course maps are usually quite expensive. When we can get trades like glass panes for an emerald, this is definitely one of its best trades. You can also buy Ocean Explorer maps and Woodland Explorer maps. This is the only source of those items in the entire game. This one will lead you to an ocean monument, and this one will lead you to a woodland mansion. And we could also technically sell compasses to this Cartographer for emeralds. Then near the end we get trades where we can buy banners from this villager, so only from the Cartographer, with the final trade being the globe banner pattern. Now this is also the only place to get this, and this has a really cool banner pattern of a sort of squarish Minecraft-like globe. The last villager profession is the wandering trader. Now there is no job site block for this, and this works differently than every other villager type in the game. These can generate in randomly around the player very infrequently, or at villager centers, so that shows that the wandering trader is going to both villagers and to players to trade with them. And the trades are all one way, emeralds for items, and basically the wandering trader has no way of leveling up either, so the trades you start with are the trades you get. It sells things like ice, saplings, flowers, coral blocks, sand, also some things like, let's say, mangrove propagules are here. Something that makes it quite good is if you're on a world where there's not a lot of different saplings on it, or of course there are, but there may be 10 or 20,000 blocks out, you could get yourself access to all those different blocks very easily just by buying a few from the wandering trader. And also things like the coral blocks and also a couple sand trades that it has are technically the only ways of getting those items renewably in the game. Anyway, I hope you found watching this video to be a good deal. Leave a like on the video if you thought so. I'll see you in the next one, and have a great day. Goodbye.